What's up guys, Menny Lindenfeld here and I'm excited to bring you Tempus. With Tempus you will perform the cleanest and most believable watch-stopping demonstrations that looks and feels like real mind power, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to master. With the Tempus system, you can stop single and multiple borrowed watches. And once you stop a watch, you can freely handle the watch, you can let go of the watch, or you can let the spectator hold the watch. The watch will remain dead, and it will only come back to life and tick again at your command. You will learn how to stop a watch close up, frontal, on zoom, in the spectator's hands. Additionally, you will learn how to use the Tempus system for effects unrelated to watch stopping, including a routine where you mentally synchronize two unsynced watches. You will learn to stop your own watch while you wear it on the wrist and without coming near with the other hand. And to stop a clock as it hangs on the wall. Check this out. You can see both clocks on the wall, they both work. Now let me try something. And stop. You can see that this clock right here has stopped while this clock is still working. Let me make it work again and go. Additionally, you will learn never published before watch-stopping secrets. You will learn how to control a watch with a chronograph and stop the main dial and each of the sub-dials in the watch individually. You will also learn how to cause the stopwatch in a chronograph to self-start without pressing any buttons. Tempus comes with gimmicks and accessories, plus an in-depth masterclass where I teach the most advanced watch-stopping secrets, techniques and routines which I've refined and perfected for 2 decades. You will learn the Tempus system, 12 powerful routines with watches, and how to best sell the telekinesis effect to your audience and make them believe that you are superhuman. Welcome to Tempus episode 3. We begin this episode by learning how to control a chronograph watch. You will learn how to individually stop each of the dials in the watch while the rest of the dials continue to work normally. You will also learn to cause the stopwatch in a chronograph to self-start without pressing any buttons. I continue by teaching multiple techniques to apply the hot zone cold zone method for stopping watches with metal bracelet straps. I then continue by talking about how to best perform watch stopping on a Zoom show and social media. You will also learn how to stop your own watch without having to remove it from the wrist. This episode ends with a routine where you stop a clock hanging on the wall. With the magnets that I've provided, you can stop a chronograph watch and you can individually stop the large second hands of the watch or each of the sub-dial hands in the watch. And this is the great advantage of using these magnets, because these magnets have a very low magnetic field and this allows you to control each of the hands separately. Or if you want, you can actually stop all the hands together. This is an amazing discovery because you can do this only with low power magnets like the one you have, With magnets that have strong magnetic field, you cannot control each of the hands separately, and it will always stop all the hands together. When you have the magnet at cold zone on the watch will work normally, just like with any other watch. In a chronograph watch, when you press one of the buttons, and I'm not talking about the crown, I'm talking about one of the buttons, it will start the stopwatch, and it really depends on the type of chronograph watch you have. Some of these chronograph watches, you will have to press the top button, and some of them you will have to press the other button. Now, if I press the top button right there, you can see now that the stopwatch has started to work. So now you can see that each of these dials are working, and when you press the same button again, as you can see, it has now stopped the small sub-dial second hands of the watch, and the large second hands continues ticking normally. Now when you press the other button right here, as you can see, it resets the stopwatch, and now the sub-dial second hands are back to 0. Now, when you load the magnet onto the watch at the cold zone, you can see now that the watch is working normally. And if I press the button right there, you can see that the stopwatch is working. And when I press this again, the stopwatch will stop. And when I press the other button, it will reset the stopwatch back to 0. And this is with the magnet loaded on the watch. Now, if the stopwatch is not on, you will use the watch just like any other watch, where you have the cold zone to make the watch work, and then the hot zone to make the main dial second hands to stop. And when I move the magnet back to cold, you can see now that the second hands continues working again. Now, if I press the top button right there, you can see now that the stopwatch has started to work. With a chronograph watch, I can stop each of the hands separately, stop a few of them together, or stop all of them together. Now, if I move the magnet right here, you can see now that the bottom sub-dial has now stopped while the rest is working. If I move the magnet a little upwards, I can now stop the main dial and bottom sub-dial. And if I go even more up, right there, you can see now that I have stopped all 3 dials together. Now I can also stop the top dial while the rest of the hands are moving, and I can stop the top sub-dial and main dial while the bottom sub-dial is still working. If I'm placing the magnet right here, you can see now that the large second hands of the watch has stopped, while the 2 sub-dial second hands are still working. Now, if I place the magnet right here, you can see now that only the top and bottom sub-dials have stopped, while the main second hands still works. And this is great for the routine that I'm going to show you after this section of the tutorial. And when you are removing the magnet, you can see now that all 3 dials are ticking again. Let me now show you all the different spots where you can put the magnet on to stop the different dials in the watch. With the magnet at the bottom, the magnet will be at the cold zone and all the dials are working. If you move the magnet upwards, close to the bottom sub-dial, it will stop the bottom sub-dial. If you move the magnet up and in between the bottom sub-dial and the main dial, it will stop both the main and sub-dials at the bottom. If you move the magnet to the center of the watch, it will stop all 3 dials. If you move the magnet up and in between the main dial and the top sub-dial, it will stop both the top sub-dial and main dials. And if you move the magnet up and close to the top dial, it will stop the top sub-dial. And if you move the magnet all the way up, the magnet will be back at cold zone. Now, if you place the magnet at the side right here, this will stop only the top and bottom sub-dials while the main dial is still working. Now, if you place the magnet at the side right here, this will stop only the main dial while the two sub-dial second hands are still working. A chronograph watch that has a 1/10 of a second sub-dial, when you start the stopwatch, the hand will self-stop after a few spins. In this particular watch, it will spin for 60 seconds and then stop by itself. The hand will stop in 3, 2, 1, stop. The second hand sub-dial is still spinning while the 1/10 of a second has stopped. This is designed into the watch to save on battery life, and even though it has stopped, the watch still counts the 1/10 of a second internally. It will show you the correct elapsed time only after you stop the chronograph, and as you can see here, the hand has moved to show you the elapsed time. So it will stop visually, but it will continue counting internally. As long as you don't reset the stopwatch, the next time you start the chronograph, the 1/10 of a second hand will move just to the starting point, and then it will stop and wait until you stop the chronograph and then show you the elapsed time. When you do reset the chronograph, the next time you press on the start button, the 1/10 of a second sub-dial will spin again for 60 seconds and then stop again. In a performance, when you borrow a chronograph watch, you will load the magnet onto the cold zone at the back of the watch. And I always prefer to load the magnet near the sub-dial second hands. Now in this watch, the sub-dial second hand is right here at the bottom, while the top one is the 1/10 of a second, so I'm going to load the magnet under the watch near the sub-dial second hands. And while you talk and examine the watch, press to start the chronograph and secretly slide the magnet around at the back side of the watch to identify the trigger spots for each dial that you want to stop. You will talk to the audience while you check the watch. Don't make a big deal about it and don't even try to hide it. The audience does not know at this point that you are about to perform a watch stopping routine. Just make sure that no one knows that you have a magnet hidden under the watch. Press all the buttons so it looks like you are just trying to learn how to operate the watch, which you actually do because you need to examine how the dials move and how you can stop each dial. For example, if you find a watch with a 1/10 of a second sub-dial, you want to examine first if that dial is going to move when you press the start button and how long it takes until it stops. And this way you will know if you can use this for performance, because you know that the sub-dial will probably stop after a certain amount of seconds that it spins. And this is something that will take you only a few seconds. While you speak, no one will ever suspect anything if you do this right, and you will know immediately how to place the magnet to make each of the dials stop. And if you are using your own watch for this, this is something that you can learn in advance and just use it. The positions of the trigger spots on a chronograph watch is logical. Think of each sub-dial as an individual small watch with hot and cold zones, and all you have to do is place the magnet near that sub-dial that you want to stop and find the exact trigger spot that stops this dial. And if you position the magnet between the sub-dial and main dial, it will stop both of them. In a performance, what I like to do is cause each hand to stop individually. I will start with the bottom sub-dial second hand and then stop the main dial as well, and then end by also stopping the 1/10 of a second sub-dial, and now all three dials in the watch are stopped. I use the friction slide on the table when I'm using this particular watch, but you can use any other technique that you have learned. Now that you know that the 1/10 of a second sub-dial stops by itself after a certain amount of spins, you can actually use this for your advantage. So you are going to use the magnet for stopping the sub-dial second hands and main dial second hands, And then when you are going into the third phase of the routine where you want to stop the 1/10 of a second, you don't need to use the magnet. All you have to do is just wait, and while you do, just act. That's all you have to do. Just pretend that you are concentrating on the watch to make the last dial stop, and after a few seconds the dial will stop by itself. And what's great about this is that you can actually do this visually, so that you don't cover the watch this time with your hand when you hover over the watch. You can also use this technique for when you don't have a magnet or a gimmick with you and you find someone that has a chronograph watch with a 1/10 of a second sub-dial. You can actually pretend to make these sub-dials stop with your mind without doing anything at all. So this is a great impromptu way to perform this. The features that I've showed you here are with this particular watch. Every chronograph model will have its own features, so you should take this in consideration, but the idea is always the same. In this watch, for example, the chronograph sub-dials are arranged completely different. Here, there is no 1/10 of a second sub-dial, and instead there is a 24-hour count sub-dial. And this dial right here is the 30-minute count. So with this particular watch, I only stop both the main and sub-dial second hands, and I'm not going to use the other sub-dials for the effect, because there is no visual indication when I stop these dials. And I will only use the second hands of both the main and sub-dials for the effect. Is it safe to use a magnet with a chronograph watch? And the answer is, it really depends on how strong the magnet is. A very weak magnet like the ones that you have will not ruin the watch, but you should be aware of very powerful magnets that can actually ruin any quartz watch. I actually read the manual that came with the watch, and as you can see here, it says that magnets can make the watch either go faster, slow down, or stop completely, but it will not ruin the watch. It also says that very powerful magnets can actually ruin the watch, but these magnets are not something that you will use with the watch anyway. So the magnets that you have received, because they are very weak magnets, they should not ruin the watch. But even though the magnet will not ruin the watch, I recommend that you don't try this with very expensive watches. It's better to be safe than sorry. Now you should be aware that when you are stopping the stopwatch sub-dials with the magnet, the sub-dial hands will go out of alignment. When I press the reset button, you can see now that the sub-dial second hands are not aligned. But this is not a problem, because you can actually align this. Here in this watch, when I pull the crown out 2 clicks, I can actually align each of the sub-dials. As you can see, I can now align this one, and I can also align the bottom one like this. And now when I press this back in, next time I'm going to start the stopwatch and stop the stopwatch. When I press this button, you can see now that the hands are now reset back to 0. So this is something that you should know, that once you stop the sub-dials with a magnet, they will go out of alignment, but you can easily put them back to alignment and make sure that they are reset back to 0, as I've explained. Most chronograph watches that come with a 1/10 of a second sub-dial will stop after it spins for a short while. Some of them will stop after 30 seconds. Some of them, like this watch right here, will stop after 60 seconds, and some other watches, the hand will not move at all when you start the stopwatch, and it will only show you the elapsed time after you stop the chronograph. If you were wondering what this sub-dial right here is, this one is the 60-minute count, and I'm not using it when I'm stopping the watch, simply because there is no visual indication when I do stop it. With some chronograph watches, the main dial second hand and the sub-dial second hand are reversed, and what it means is that the large hour and minute ends are the actual hands of the watch, while the sub-dial second hands is showing the seconds in time, while the large second hands is actually the hand of the stopwatch. So this is something that you should be aware of, but the effect will work just the same. So as you can see here, I have a watch that has a stopwatch in the watch. And when I press this button right here, it starts the stopwatch. And when I press the same button again, the stopwatch will stop working. Now you can see that the stopwatch is not working now. And it's important that I never come close to the buttons or crown of the watch. Now I'm going to place the watch down on the table, and I'm going to concentrate over the watch, and whenever you want, say ready, set, go. And the moment the spectator says go, you will turn the watch around and show that the stopwatch has started to work by itself. The way this works, you will have the magnet loaded on your finger, and it's important that you make sure that the magnet sticks well on your finger, because here you are not going to load the magnet onto the watch. You will have the magnet always attached to the finger. Now you will grab the watch at both opposite straps, and you will have the magnet right here hidden under the strap. And it's important that you hold the watch so that the buttons are now facing the left side, and this way you can use the left index finger to simply press on the buttons. In a performance, what you are going to do, you are going to briefly show the watch from the back side, and then you will drag everybody's attention to the stopwatch in the dial right there. And then you will bring the hand along and grab the watch from this side with the magnet under the watch. But you are not going to place the magnet at the stop position yet. Now you will press the button to show that the stopwatch starts to work when you press the button, and then the second time you are going to press the button again, and as you can see, the stopwatch has now stopped. What I actually did, I did not press the button the second time. The second time I just pretended to press this button, and what I did, I moved the magnet into position to stop both subdials. Now if I remove the magnet, you can see now that the watch continues to work, so this is how you make it stop. What I'm doing, I'm synchronizing the placement of the magnet under the watch to stop both subdials while I pretend to stop the watch with the button. So I'm not pressing the second time, I'm just pretending to press. So this is how it's going to look like. I'm going to simply press or pretend to press as I place the magnet on the back side of the watch to make the watch stop. And I will emphasize that I'm not going to touch any of the buttons. What I'm going to do next is ask the spectator to open his palm, and I'm going to place the watch in his palm, and I will hover my hand over the watch while the magnet remains stuck on my finger, and I will ask the spectator to say ready, set, go whenever he wants, and after he says so, he himself can turn the watch over to see that the stopwatch has started to work by itself. Like I said before, the 1/10 of a second will stop after the bottom subdial makes a full 1 minute turn. And as you can see, it has stopped just now. So when you are performing this with a watch that the 1/10 of a second subdial actually moves, it's important that you time it so that it does not stop during when you are performing, because you want the spectator to see that the stopwatch actually works. If the 1/10 of a second subdial does not work visually when you are pressing the start button, that's not a problem. You can always perform this with the other second hand of the stopwatch, which will work just fine. You can also perform this routine in a visual way, so you won't place the watch face down in the spectator's hand. You will simply pretend to stop the watch with the button and magnet, and then you will tell the spectator to say ready, set, go, and whenever he says go, the stopwatch will start working by itself. So all I do is simply move the magnet away from the back of the watch by bending the finger, and this will cause the stopwatch to start working by itself. Each chronograph watch may have the trigger spot to stop the stopwatch in a different location at the watch. So just make sure that you place the magnet at the right spot when you want to make the stopwatch stop. This is something that you should take in consideration when you are performing with other chronograph watches. What you are looking for is a watch with a metal bracelet strap that has something called a Z clasp. A Z clasp folds like this, like a Z, and then locks this way. And these are the most common locks that you can find on bracelet straps. When you are borrowing the watch from the spectator, most likely he is going to hand you the watch with the clasp already unlocked. If he doesn't, simply unlock it yourself because you need the strap to be unlocked. So you have the magnet right here at the finger palm, and what you are going to do, you are going to load the magnet right here at the centerpiece of the Z clasp. The magnet will easily stick to the Z clasp because it is made of stainless steel, even watches that are made of different kinds of metal. So for example, this watch right here is made out of titanium and the magnet is not sticking to titanium, but if you look at the Z clasp right there, you can see that the magnet actually sticks to it because the clasp itself is made of stainless steel. So with most Z clasp watches that you are going to find are made of stainless steel. You will load the magnet onto the watch at the clasp right there, and you want to place the magnet at the center piece of the clasp. And the way to unstick the magnet from your finger is simply placing the magnet over the clasp and then use the hinge right there to unstick the magnet. So the way to do this is as follows. You will simply slide the fingers backwards and push the magnet against the hinge. And this will unstick the magnet from the finger and the magnet will be attached to the clasp. You are going to borrow a watch from the spectator. You will take the watch with the left hand and then come with the right fingers to grab the watch from the clasp, and you want to hold the clasp at the centerpiece, and you will hold the clasp with the finger and magnet from underneath the clasp and with the thumb over the clasp from the inner side right there. Then what you will do, you will slide the middle finger backwards so that the magnet is now touching the hinge right there, and then you will push against the hinge and this will unstick the magnet from the finger and the magnet will be attached to the clasp. Now the next thing that you want to do immediately after you get the magnet to release from the finger, you will use the index finger to simply slide the magnet a little bit towards the center. You don't want the magnet all the way at the center. You just want to make sure that the magnet is not touching the hinge right there. All right, so now that you have the magnet loaded, you can basically show the watch very freely. As long as you are hiding the magnet at the top right there, you can show the watch from all sides and you are now ready to perform with the watch. To unload the magnet from the strap, all you have to do is come with the right fingers again, grab the centerpiece of the clasp, and then simply push the middle finger against the magnet, and this will stick the magnet to your finger, and you can now get rid of the magnet. So let me now show you how it looks in real speed. I'm going to load the magnet onto the watch. And then I'm going to show you how to unload the magnet from the watch. The pressure stop is a very simple way to stop the watch. You will have the magnet loaded on the center clasp as explained, and what you will do to make the watch stop, hold the watch with the index finger and thumb of the right and left hands, and to make the watch stop, all you have to do is use the middle fingers And you will place the middle fingers underneath the strap like this, and you will simply use the fingers to push the strap upwards like this. Every time you push the clasp upwards, the magnet will come in contact with the back of the watch, and it will cause the watch to stop. And when you release the pressure, the magnet will move away from the watch, and the watch will continue working. You can see that the watch is working, and I'm going to use the middle fingers of both hands to push the magnet upwards, and this will cause the watch to stop. As you can see, the watch is not working, and when I want to make the watch work again, all I have to do is release the tension of these two fingers, and now the strap is going to move away from the back of the watch, and the magnet is not going to affect the watch anymore, and the watch is going to work again. The chain slide method is very similar to the stick and slide method that I've taught you with the open strap watches at the previous episode. To make the watch stop, all you have to do is simply slide the metal strap forward and back so that the magnet goes from cold zone to hot zone, and if you want to make the watch work again, back to cold zone. So this is all you really do. You use the index fingers of both hands to slide the magnet front and back to make the watch work or stop. Hold the watch with both hands with the strap flat against the back side of the watch, and you want to hold the strap with both hands with the index fingers underneath the strap and the thumbs above the strap. To animate the magnet, simply use the index finger to slide the magnet forward and back from cold zone to hot zone, and this will cause the watch to either stop or work. So from here, this is how it looks like. You can see the watch working, and when you want to make the watch stop, you are going to use the index fingers to simply slide the magnet into hot zone by moving the strap forward. And if you want to make the watch work again, you will simply move the strap backwards like this. To hide the chain slide move from being noticeable, what you want to do is make a large move with the entire watch so that it hides the chain slide move as you execute it. Now this is very similar to the friction slide I've taught you in the previous episode with the open strap watches. The only difference is that here you are not using the friction of the table against the magnet, you are using a chain slide instead. Now what you want to do is place the watch on the table. As soon as the watch touches the table, the chain slide move is already over and the watch on the table is already stopped. Immediately bring the right palm and hover it over the watch and pretend to concentrate on the watch. The hovering palm will hide the face of the watch so that no one sees it has already stopped. Don't rush it when you execute the stop and hovering of the hand. Be relaxed, be confident, and no one will ever suspect anything. Just like with the friction slide method, you can place the watch on the table without stopping the watch yet. You will cover the watch, let's say with your business card, and you will execute the chain slide as you adjust the watch. So this is another way to perform this. Or if you don't have a table nearby, you can place the watch on your open palm and then place the other palm of the other hand over the face of the watch. And here you will execute the slide move with the face of the watch instead of the chain as explained. So here you are moving the watch from hot zone to cold zone simply by moving your hand a little bit, and you will do this under the cover when you are pretending to concentrate, and this will not be suspicious in any way. So basically here you are sliding the face of the watch while the chain and magnet stay static. When you are done performing the routine, what you want to do is hold the watch with the left hand again and simply steal the magnet with your right hand and then get rid of the magnet the way I've explained in the first episode of how to ditch the magnet. You can see that the watch is working, and I'm going to try to stop this watch with my mind. concentrate on the watch. And now you can see that the watch has stopped right there. Now to make the watch work again, all I have to do is this, and now the watch works again. The gravity stop is very similar to the pressure stop that I've taught you, and the difference is that here you are holding the watch hanging in front of the spectators. You want to hold the watch hanging on the index finger and the thumb holding the back side of the strap. Now, the reason you need to hold this like this, because if you don't, as you can see now, that the watch slides down because of the weight of the watch. So you have to hold the watch like this. Now you want to load the magnet right there. Now this is where you load the magnet. You are holding the watch so that the magnet is at the center behind the watch, so that you can stop the watch whenever you want to. Now you are going to hold the watch and you want to place the middle finger of the right hand curled underneath the thumb like this. And you will use the middle finger to contact the strap. And when you want to stop the watch, what you need to do is simply push the strap forward with the fingernail of the middle finger of the right hand. So you are pushing the magnet towards the watch. This will be the hot zone, and when you let go, the magnet will move away from the watch, and this will be the cold zone, and the watch will come back to life. And so this is how you stop the watch, and this is how you make the watch work. So in a performance, you will come with the other hand to channel energy towards the watch, and whenever you want to make the watch stop, you will simply push with the middle finger of the right hand to cause the watch to stop. As you can see right now, the watch has stopped, and when you release the pressure of the middle finger, the watch will come back to life. So you will use the gravity stop to perform with the watch hanging in front of you, and you need the audience to be in front of you as well. You cannot have people behind you because they might see the magnet from the back side. But if you have some people on your sides, what you can do is as follows. So if you have people at the right side, they will not see the magnet because the hand is blocking the view of the magnet. But the problem is with people on the other side. So what you want to do, if you have people on this side right here, you want to bring the other hand close to the watch like this when you make the watch stop, and this way no one can see the magnet. And again, you want the middle finger curled underneath the watch, and whenever you want to make the watch stop, you will press and push forward and let go whenever you want the watch to continue working. Now, as you can see, if I turn around, there is no way you can see the magnet from anywhere. So this is the way you will hold your hand, the left hand, when you have people on your left side. Look at the watch, think of the ticking hand right there, and 3, 2, 1, stop. And now you can see that the watch has stopped. And if I come close to the camera right there, you can see that the watch is not working. And when I want to make the watch work again, you will just simply snap your fingers, and now the watch works again. This method is basically like the parallel chain slide, where you slide the magnets up and down using the chain. So you will have the magnet loaded right here, and whenever you want to make the watch stop, what I'm doing is as follows. I'm simply using the thumb and index finger to move the chain up and down, and this will cause the magnet to move up and down to hot and cold zone. So I'm holding the watch with the index finger and thumb of the right hand, but you can also do this with the left hand. And to make the watch stop, all I have to do is move the chain up with the thumb like this. And if I want to make the watch stop, I will simply slide the chain back down. What I do to hide the slide move of the thumb is by coming with the other hand, and I'm simply going to do a big move with the other hand as I move the thumb at the same time. Now you can actually also touch the bottom side of the chain as you do this. So this will also cover the noise of the sliding of the chain, because it will make the noise when you touch the bottom of the chain with the channeling hand. So you are going to hold the watch like this, and whenever you want to make the watch stop, you will simply do this move. You can see that the watch is working, and to make the watch stop, I will hold the watch like this, concentrate on the watch, and whenever you're ready, say stop. And whenever you say stop, the watch will now be dead, as you can see right there. The watch is dead. Now to make the watch work again, all I have to do is concentrate on the watch, and now you can see that the watch is working again. Now this method is a bluff method. I don't really stop the watch when I say that I do. All I do is bluff basically, and I will stop the watch only when I'm displaying the watch to the spectators. Show the watch around that it is working, and then change the position of the fingers and watch so that the watch is hanging face down. And what you will do, you will simply hold the watch from the center piece of the clasp right there. So the magnet is right here, and I'm simply holding the watch hanging like this. Now bring the right palm and hold it face up, open and flat under the watch from a distance, and then you will pretend to stop the watch. And at this point, the watch has not stopped. The watch is actually working. What I'm doing, I'm releasing the grip of the index finger and thumb, and I'm going to come with the index finger inside the chain like this, and with the thumb from above, and I'm going to grab the chain from the center like this to lift the watch upwards, and I'm going to hold the watch in front of the spectators so that the magnet at the back is now touching the hot zone. So this is how you make the watch stop. Now to make the watch work again, you will come back to the same position with the watch hanging. You will come with the other hand to channel energy into the watch, and the second time you will do exactly the same, but this time you just want to make sure that when you hold the watch up, that the magnet is not touching the back side of the watch. So I'm coming from this position into this position, but as you can see, I'm not letting the magnet touch the back side of the watch. If you have people behind you, instead of showing it to the front side towards the spectators at the front, where people might see the magnet at the back, you are going to use the left hand to simply turn the watch around and place the watch on the table or on your palm and show that the watch is now dead. You can see that the watch is working, and I'm going to try to stop this watch with my mind, concentrate on the watch, and now you can see that the watch has stopped right there. Now to make the watch work again, I will hold the watch like this, concentrate on the watch, and now you can see that the watch is working again. You can see that the watch is working, and I'm going to try to stop this watch again. And now you can see that the watch has stopped right There. Now to make the watch work again, concentrate on the watch, and now the watch works again. In this routine, I am performing the watch hanging techniques that I've taught you, and I'm combining all the techniques together. I hold the watch with my right fingers ready for a hanging chain slide. This is how I start the routine. I then drag the attention of the spectators to the ticking watch, and I halt for a moment to let the audience to see the ticking watch. It's important that they see that the watch is actually ticking. I then execute the hanging chain slide to cause the watch to stop, and then I wait again to let the audience see that the watch has stopped. I then briefly show my empty left hand and grab the watch at the strap from the back and changing the position of the watch so that the watch is now in a position ready for a chain bluff. And I do this to expose the back side of the watch without saying anything about it, and this adds fairness to the routine. I then demo the chain bluff to make the watch work again, and I raise the left hand to show that the watch works again, and then immediately lower the watch to the same bluff position, and then I pretend to stop the watch again. I then grab the watch with the right hand, and what I do, I lift the watch with the right index finger while I grab the back side of the strap with my right thumb. And I bring the watch to a hanging gravity stop position to show that the watch has indeed stopped again. Notice that here I'm not using the right middle finger to push the strap against the back cover of the watch. I simply hold the watch straight up while the watch is stopped and to show that the watch is indeed dead. I then wait a moment to let the audience see that the watch is dead and then cause the watch to work again by simply letting go of the pressure of my right thumb against the strap, and the watch will start working again. I end the routine by contacting the magnet with the right thumb as I stretch the hand out to hand the watch back to its owner, and while the magnet stays stuck to the thumb. Then get rid of the magnet using your favorite magnet holder. When performing on an interactive Zoom show, you cannot borrow the watch from the spectators at home, and you will have to use your own watch for it. So it's extra important that you display and show everything as open and fair as possible. Perform one of the visual watch stopping techniques that I've taught you in this tutorial, where you hold the watch at the strap ends hanging in front of the camera, and I suggested you use a watch with a metal strap for this, because this allows you to control the magnet from the strap, moving the magnet from hot zone to cold zone and back to cold zone later on. And it also allows you to display the watch front and back before and after performance, because here the magnet hides behind the strap and not directly on the case of the watch. It's also important that when you are performing on a Zoom show that you wear the watch that you are about to perform with as part of your outfit, so that the people at home can see you wearing the watch during the entire performance while you perform other routines, and only when you are about to show the watch stopping routine, this is the first time that you drag the people's attention to the watch that you are using. I also suggest that you use a watch with a brand name. It does not have to be an expensive brand, just something that people are aware of, because this adds credibility that the watch that you are using is an everyday normal watch. When ready to perform, what you want to do is show the watch to the camera, and it's also important that you don't remove the watch from the camera from this point on until you are done with the performance. So you want to show the watch, remove the watch, perform the watch stopping routine, and then put the watch back onto your wrist, and this entire time the watch stays in full view to the people at home so that everything looks as fair as possible. When ready to perform, show the watch to the camera and you will say something like, in a moment I will try to stop this watch using my mind. Normally I would borrow a watch from one of you guys, but today I'm going to use this Casio for this. Now, notice that I've mentioned the brand name of the watch that I am wearing. I said I'm going to use this Casio for this. And the reason I did this is because I want the people at home to feel that this is a normal watch, and by dragging the attention to them that this is a Casio, it actually says to them this is a normal watch without actually saying this. So when you are displaying the watch to the camera, this is when you are going to use your left thumb to steal the magnets from off camera. And what you are going to do now is open the strap of the watch right there, and you will use your left fingers for this. And at the same time, when I'm opening the watch, I also load the magnet onto the watch. And I'm doing this under the cover of the wrist, so the people at home can never see me loading the magnet onto the watch. Let me show it to you one more time. So you have the magnet right here, and what I'm doing is I'm loading the magnets as I am removing the watch from the hand. Once you have removed the watch from the hand, what you want to do now is show the watch all around very openly and freely. Just make sure that you hide the magnet at the top right there by holding the fingers this way, and you will show the watch from all around and then get into position to stop the watch. Now what you want to do is drag everybody's attention to the ticking second hand, and you will say, I want you to look at the ticking second hand right there and follow the hand as it moves. And then you will go into position, and whenever you're ready, you will cause this watch to stop. And once that watch has stopped, you will come closer to the camera and show the dead watch and let them all see that the watch has stopped. When you are ready to make the watch work again, you will say again, look at the dead second hand, and whenever you're ready, you will make that watch work again, and now the watch ticks again normally. And again, you will show that the watch works again. From this point, what you want to do is grab the watch with the left hand, show the watch from all around, and then place the watch back onto your hand, close the clasp as you steal the magnets as you close it, and you will show the watch one more time in front of the camera as you get rid of the magnet off camera, and you are done with the performance. When performing on an interactive Zoom show, you can do the wrist slide if you want. This way you don't have to remove the watch from the wrist, or you can perform the hanging gravity stop like this, or you can do the chain slide to control the magnet. Any one of these methods will be perfect for an interactive Zoom show. I also recommend that you perform the combined hanging methods routine that I've taught you in this episode. This is a great routine to perform on Zoom. If you look at the watch right there, you can see that the watch is working, and I'm going to try to stop this watch and stop. And if you look right now, you can see that the watch is now dead. It does not work. To make the watch work again, you just snap your finger, and now you can see the watch working again. Now what's great about this is that it happens on your wrist without ever taking the watch off the wrist. What you need for this is a skin tone bandage, and you want to use a good quality one that has a very strong adhesive. I'm using this brand by Leukoplast. This comes from Germany. You can buy this online, and I have cut off a piece which is about 2 centimeters in length. And what you want to do is place the magnet at the center of the piece right there. What you want to do then is attach the magnet and tape right here on your wrist. Now I am attaching this at the same line where the wrist bone is. So here is the elevated part of the wrist bone, and I am placing the magnet right here. You also want to make sure that the magnet right here is at the same line as the number 6 on the watch, so that when you wear the watch over the magnet is not going to affect the watch, and the magnet is going to be under the cold zone of the watch. You also want to make sure that you wear the watch very loose, so it's not tight on your wrist, so that it can actually move every time you move your hand, so that the watch slides from side to side. You also want to make sure that the tape does not flash from under the watch. So if you need to adjust the tape, you can adjust the tape so that it is hidden under the strap. I also use a very large watch. This way it's easier to hide the magnet under the watch. And I'm also using a heavy watch. This way, every time I move the wrist, the watch is going to simply slide by its own weight. So this is something that can be very helpful. Now you can see that the watch is working. To make the watch stop, all you have to do is basically slide the watch this way. So now you can see that the watch has stopped. To make the watch work again, simply slide it back up, and now you can see that the watch is working. And you will do this by simply turning your wrist either to the front so that the spectator can see the watch, and when you have the hand at this position, the watch is going to work. You can see that working. And to make it stop, all you have to do is turn the watch towards yourself, and now you can see that the watch has stopped. So all you have to do is really turn your hand towards the spectator to make the watch work, and towards yourself to make the watch stop. You can also shake the watch when you turn the hand. This will help the watch move, but if you have a heavy enough watch, you don't really have to do a very large shake. You can just simply turn the hand from side to side to make the watch move, either to the hot zone or cold zone of the watch. So you have the watch pointing towards the spectator, and the watch is now working because the magnet is under the cold zone. To make the watch stop, you will turn the watch towards yourself, and now the watch will stop, and you will pretend to concentrate on the watch. I also like to open the palm like this, and I will, after a few seconds, say stop, and then I will display the dead watch. And I can do this in one of two ways, either by simply turning the hand this way to display the dead watch. This way the watch is going to remain at the same position with the magnet at the hot zone, but I actually prefer to turn the watch back to the spectator. The problem is that every time you turn the watch back this way, the watch is going to start working again because it is now going to be falling to cold zone. So the solution for this, what I do is after I make the watch stop, I will bend my hand. So I'm bending my hand this way. This way it elevates the wrist bones so that the watch now does not move. So now you can see that the watch has stopped, and even if I turn the watch around, you can see the watch still stopped. It's not going to move. Now to make the watch work, you can simply turn it to yourself again, pretend to make it work after you concentrate for a moment, and then when you turn the watch around again, this time you are not going to bend the wrist bone upwards, and the watch is going to tick again. You can perform the wrist slide with a watch that has a bracelet metal watch or a watch with an open strap. And the advantage of using a watch with an open strap is that you can have the magnet ready on your wrist and close the band tight on your wrist so that the watch does not slide from side to side when you turn your hand. And this way you can actually walk around with the watch without worrying about the watch stopping. And only when you are about to perform this routine, you will simply loosen the band so that the watch can now simply turn from side to side. So this is one advantage of using the open strap band. I actually prefer to use a metal strap band simply because it slides better in my opinion, but it is up to you what you prefer to use. If you want to remove the watch after you have done performing, all you have to do is turn your hand this way and then remove the watch from your wrist while you keep your hand with the palm upwards so that the magnet does not show. So you can remove the watch, place it on your palm to show the watch for a brief moment to the audience, and then whenever you want you can simply place the watch back on and you are done with the performance. You can also perform the wrist slide method with people around you in a close-up situation. So instead of performing with the watch displaying to the front with the audience in front of you, you are going to display the watch to people around you. And you can perform this either seated or standing. So what you are going to do is as follows. You are going to show the watch that it is working right there. You can see that the watch is working. And all you have to do is turn your hand around and now the watch will stop. The way it works is exactly as before. The only difference here is that here I have the magnets instead of at the closer side of my wrist. I place the magnet at the far side of the wrist. And this allows me to cause the watch to stop every time I turn my hand this way. And what I do at first when I want to show the watch that it is working, I grab the watch with the right index finger and thumb and slide it down at the same time as I turn my hand. So I'm going to show the watch. I'm going to point with my index finger to show that it is working. I place the index finger on the watch to point on the watch, but I also do this so that the watch does not move as I show the watch. I don't want the watch to stop by mistake. Now when I'm ready to make the watch stop, all I have to do is simply turn my hand around, even half a turn, and it will cause the watch to stop. And when I turn the wrist again to show that the watch is stopped, I again place my index finger to point on the watch, and this way I keep the watch from sliding. The index finger holds the watch basically in place, so I can show the watch around that it is dead. Now I recommend that you perform the wrist slide, especially when you are performing this in a close-up situation, that you do this only as a climax for another watch stopping routine. So what you will do, you will perform any watch stopping technique that you have learned in this tutorial. You are going to borrow a watch, show that the watch works, and do whatever watch stopping routine that you want. You will then show that the watch on your wrist works as well. You will then concentrate on the borrowed watch, show that the watch has stopped, and then also show that the watch on your wrist has stopped as well. So the stopping of the watch on the wrist is a climax for another watch stopping routine. When you are not performing and you have the watch on you and the magnet underneath the watch at the far side of the watch will most likely stop most of the time because of the natural position of the hand, which will cause the watch to slide down. So you can do one of three things. One of them is simply wear the watch like this. So this way the magnet is going to be hidden under the strap and you don't take the risk of the watch stopping, so that you can keep time during the day when you have the magnet on. Or you can simply remove the magnet completely and only put it on just before when you are about to perform. Or if you use a watch with an open-ended strap, you can simply tighten the strap on your wrist so that the watch does not slide, and this way you can make sure that the watch will not stop while you walk around and do your everyday activities. You can also stop a watch on a specific thought of number and use it for a mind reading or prediction routine. So you will let the spectator write down any number from 1 to 60, which will represent any second in the watch, or he can write down a specific hour, and he is going to then fold that paper and never let you see what he wrote. You will then gain the information using any peek technique that you know how to do. For example, you can use my blind man's wallet for this. The blind man's wallet lets you peek on a folded piece of paper, and you will get that information before you are going to go into the watch stopping routine. And without anyone knowing that you know that information, you will tell the spectator to think of the thought of number, and you are going to stop that watch on that specific number that the spectator has thought of. You will then unfold the paper and show that both times match exactly. This is a very strong routine because you are performing two effects in one. You read the spectator's mind and also stop the watch at the same time. You can use any watch stopping technique for this, and this is a very strong way to stop the watch. Analog wall clocks and alarm clocks also use a quartz mechanism. It's a large mechanism. Usually most components are made of plastic, but there are some metal components in there as well, and the magnet that you have received can easily stop the clock. If you look here, you can see the coil, and the watch will stop if you place a magnet over the coil. This is the hot zone of the mechanism of the watch. Any other position on the mechanism is the cold zone, and when you have the magnets anywhere at the cold zone, the clock is going to continue working normally. When I want to perform with a clock, I like to prepare a larger amount of blue tack behind the magnet for this routine. Use double or triple the amount of blue tack than you would usually use when performing with wristwatches, and what you want to do is make a small ball and stick it on the magnet. This will help the magnet to easily stick on the wall where that clock is hanging on. You can stack a few magnets together to get extra strength. This will help you stop various clocks if you need more magnetic field to make them stop. If you stack 2 magnets together, it will double the strength, and 3 magnets will triple the strength of the magnets. The method for stopping a wall clock is as follows. With the clock hanging on the wall, you want to remove the clock from the wall, attach the magnet at the back in hot zone position, and then hang the clock back onto the wall. I then make sure that the magnet sticks on the wall with the blue tack by pressing on the clock. This will stick the magnet onto the wall. What I then do is I rotate the clock very slowly until the clock works again. What I'm doing is basically moving the clock so the magnet is now away from the hot zone, anywhere at the cold zone. But you don't want to move a lot. You just want to make sure that the magnet does not touch the hot zone, but you also want to make sure that the clock looks straight when it hangs on the wall. So basically, when I'm moving the clock, the magnet is not moving, the clock is moving. What you want to do is ask to be left alone in the room so that you can prepare your stuff. And while you get ready for the show, you will rig the clock if there is one hanging on the wall. If you find a clock on the wall where you are going to perform, this is a perfect ending for a watch stopping routine. In a real performance, what you are going to do to make the clock stop, you will pretend to concentrate and charge energy to the clock by bringing your open palm to the glass of the clock. And what you want to do is touch the glass very lightly with the fingers, cover the glass just enough so that the second hands cannot be seen by your audience. But you will be able to peek between your spread fingers to see when the clock stops. To make the watch stop, what you want to do is rotate the clock very slowly so that the magnet now moves from cold zone to hot zone. You want to make sure the rotation of the clock is done so slow it is not noticeable by your audience. And this way it makes them believe that I actually control the watch with my mind. You will know when the watch stops because you are peeking between your fingers, And when it does, remove your hand and step away to let everybody see that the clock has stopped. To make the clock work again, you want to repeat the same process in reverse. You want to make sure that the magnet moves from hot zone back to cold zone. Remove your hand and step away to let everybody see that the clock works again. If you have a chance after the show and you are left alone in the room to pack your equipment, you will have a chance to get rid of the magnet from behind the clock, and this way no one will ever know the secret of how you have done this. If you are not alone after the show, and there is no way you can be alone, after you have packed your things, as an afterthought, take down the clock from the wall to set the time and say something like, let me just sync the clock with the current time because it has lost a few seconds, and while you set the clock, you actually are going to steal the magnet. You will hang the clock back onto the wall and walk away. If the clock hangs on the wall out of your reach, simply use a chair and stand on the chair. It actually makes the routine look even bigger when you are standing on a chair, and it looks really nice when you perform this way. You can also stack magnets one on top of the other, as I have explained at the beginning of this tutorial. And this is great when the clock mechanism is a bit far from the wall. This usually happens when the rim of the clock around the clock is higher than the mechanism itself. So this is a great way to give the magnet a little extra space, and you can also use a bigger blue tack piece so that it can easily stick to the wall when you want to rig the clock. In this particular clock, the second hand moves in a smooth sweep motion, very similar to automatic and mechanical watches. But the smooth sweep motion here is actually a silent movement, unlike traditional quartz clocks, which have loud dead second ticks. This type of clocks with the silent movement are made for the bedroom wall and will not disturb you while you sleep. You can see both clocks on the wall, they both work. Let me try something, and stop. You can see that this clock right here has stopped while this clock is still working. Let me make it work again, and go. Before I go into the explanation of the remote clock stop, it's important to understand that this is something that you would do in a controlled environment. If you are performing on social media, or if you are performing on a virtual show such as on Zoom, this is perfect for this. The clock that you stop without touching from a distance is a great climax for a watch stopping routine, and I use it when I perform on Zoom. What you need for this is a clock that has a very large rim at the side. And the reason for this is because you want the wall behind the clock to be far away from the mechanism of the clock. What you need is some space between the mechanism and the wall behind the clock. What I've done is place a magnet on a piece of tape. Here I'm using electric tape, but you can use any type of tape for this. Then what you want to do is fold the tape over the magnet halfway so that you have some adhesive exposed right here. Now what you want to do next is attach the magnet to the mechanism. I'm placing the magnet right here because this is where it will stop the clock. If you have a different kind of mechanism, simply find the right spot where you should place the magnet on. And then what I'm doing is sticking the end of the tape right there. So now every time I remove the magnet from the mechanism, the clock will work, and every time I let the magnet go back to the mechanism, it will stop the clock, as you can see right here. Now to control the magnet from a distance, I'm using a nylon string. You can use invisible thread for this, but it is not advised to do so because invisible thread tends to break very easily. A nylon string is actually a very strong string that you can use. Now what you want to do is place the end of the string on a piece of tape and then attach the tape with the string on top of the magnet right there. What you want is the thread to go over the top of the rim right there where the number 12 is. Now, when you pull on the string, the magnet will go away from the mechanism and the clock will work. And when you let go of the tension of the string, gravity will cause the magnet to go back to the mechanism and the clock will stop again. Now let me show it to you while the clock is on the wall. Every time I pull on the string, you can see that the clock is working, and when I let go of the string, you can see that the clock stops. Now this background that I have right here is actually a printed background. What I have done is thread the string behind the background. The spot where I threaded the string through the background is right here, but behind the clock. The string goes through the background, then all the way upwards and outside of the view of the camera. What I've done is attach the string over the bar I have on top right here. If you don't have a bar above you, you can stick a nail into the wall and go with the string over the nail at the top. Then what you want to do is have the string coming all the way above you and outside of the view of the camera. And then what you want to do is attach the thread next to you on the table with the thread pulled. This way the clock will remain working during your performance. And when you want to cause the clock to stop, what you want to do is lose tension of the thread and the clock will stop. Hey guys, Menny Lindenfeld here, and I'm excited to bring you Deformer, the ultimate live show bending and twisting tool. I've designed Deformer to make the bending of strong metal objects super easy and for the use in live show performances. Deformer hides in plain sight. There is nothing to conceal, add, ditch or switch, so you can focus 100% of your attention on presentation. Bend spoons, forks, keys and even nails into impossible shapes, bends you cannot achieve by hand. With nothing to prepare and no reset, Deformer is always ready for you and you can use it anywhere, impromptu, close-up and on stage. With Deformer, you can easily bend a perfectly straight neck twist in a borrowed sine spoon, or bend multiple spirals into a single spoon. And even better, bend a spiral twist into the tine of a borrowed sine fork. You can also bend the tines to an impossible 90-degree angle, upwards, downwards or sideways, or bend the very end of the handle of both a spoon and a fork. Bend one or two tines simultaneously, or use Deformer to easily break a tine in half after you gave that fork out for inspection. Additionally, you can bend, twist, and break borrowed keys and bend strong steel nails to an impossible 20 to 120 degree angle.
Can you hold this right there?
Yeah.
And whenever you're ready, just pull.
Oh my.
Here's the rubber band. I'm gonna do it very fair. Goes through one finger and second finger. 2 fingers right there. But I'm gonna do it in super slow motion. 1, 2, and slow motion.
Well done.
Can you hold the tip right there? Ready? Check this out. 1, 2.
Oh my god. Whoa. So good.
So I'm going to try to go in right here. Just go 1, 2, goes right through.
That was cool.
Like, how did you do that?
That was cool.